Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to look at level wind reels and problem diagnosis. So a customer brought this one in because the level wind feature is not working. And he thought maybe there was a damaged pawl in there. A pawl is a little cylindrical shaped piece of metal with a fork on it that rides on the worm gear. He thought that maybe that had broken or maybe there was a defect in here. So problem diagnosis, first thing is the reel turning. All the wheels turning, so that's fine. Then I look underneath to the worm drive. Now the worm drive, I took one out here. This is the worm drive. It's typical of a level wind reel. It's a crossover pattern of carved into some metal, and the pawl will ride in that, and when it gets down to the end, it will reverse. So I want to make sure that's riding, and I turn around, and that's something of a problem here. It's turning erratically, if it's turning at all. So my guess is that the problem then is in the transition pieces. So the spool on this reel drives the transition gear, which drives this worm gear, and it's fairly common in my experiences that the worm gear, which is metal, chews up the teeth on a plastic transition piece. And they make them transition pieces in plastic because there's a little bit of flexibility in them, and that enables the reel to take up slack and to move without a grind. But sometimes, unfortunately, they get caught up, and that metal gear will just chew away the teeth and cause this to become inoperative. And that's going to be my guess on this one. And if it is, I'm going to hope that I have a replacement part here. This is a Shakespeare Arsenal, fairly common department store or sporting goods shop reel. It's one of those mass-produced reels, and being common, it's a good thing that from time to time I've collected a bunch of parts from these that have broken and could not be repaired. I may have one in here. So the first thing I'll check is the drive on the spool. And there's two drives on this spool. There's a coarse drive and then there's a smaller drive. This smaller drive drives the wheel that drives this. This is the metal gear that we saw on the back of a typical worm gear. So let's turn it over and see what we have here. And when we turn it over, here's the problem. The problem is that there's teeth missing on the plastic gear, and I don't know if we can see that very clearly, but there's teeth that have been chewed off. So what's happening is every time this makes a rotation and it gets to the point where the missing teeth are, it can no longer drive this this gear because the teeth are missing. So this is a fairly easy repair, and what we're going to do here is we're going to search to see if I have one of these first. Again, these share parts. This is a Shakespeare. It shares parts with an earlier Tidewater 30 series fishing reel that was a level wind reel, and hopefully we'll be able to match some. Let's take a look at this. It seems like it's the right diameter, but it doesn't seem like it fits on the peg. Here's another one. This one seems to work. So this one's held in by an E-clip. We'll go ahead and pull the E-clip. Again, fairly common for most level wind reels, whether you're working on this, you're working on a Penn, say 209, any of the ones that have the level wind mechanism typically will do something like this. And you can see maybe more clearly now that the teeth are missing all through here. Now what's caused that? Could be, generally speaking, that there's something that has happened in the worm gear. Maybe somebody got snagged on it and tried too hard to wrench it or something and pulled the spool right along with it or something. I don't know exactly what happened. We're going to first see if we can go replace this and see if it works. To do that, I've already pulled it off. I'm just going to put a little bit of lubrication. I'm going to use a blue grease. A little bit of lubrication on the stud that this sits on. A little bit of lubrication in the back, but that's going to be riding on a plastic collar, so that's not too much of an issue there. These have all the teeth in them, so let's go put that, see if it gets it on there. And it does. And we're going to go ahead and put that E-clip back on. If this works, I get lucky because I don't have to order parts because I had some spare ones laying around. Most of the time, you'll be working on a reel, you don't have the spare parts, right? So where do you get the parts? So in this case, this is a Shakespeare reel. You can go online to e-replacement parts. Again, e-replacement, one word, parts. And if you search your reel on there, chances are you can find the reel with a schematic and be able to get the replacement part for that. And we may still have to do that if this doesn't work. So I've just put a little bit of lube on the back end of this spool. I'm going to go line this up now. You may have noticed I'm using a parts bucket. I put all my small parts in there just so that I know where to get them. In this case, I've only taken 4 side screws out. So I'm going to reinstall those side screws and we'll see if it works. So if that worm was turning, but the level wind mechanism was not working, what you would do is you would look for that pawl. Again, that pawl is a cylindrical shaped piece of metal with a fork on it, and a lot of times those forks will bend or wear over time. So you would go and replace that pawl if that was the problem. And then those are the 2 common failures in a level wind reel, quite honestly. It's one of 3 moving parts, right? It's that wheel, it's the gearing on the spool, or it's the pawl. Rarely is it the worm gear that this rides on, but from time to time, if something got snagged in there like line and forced those grooves out of alignment, then that could be a problem as well. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got a worm gear that's turning, and we have a level wind reel that's moving. So there you go. It was pretty much a simple repair, but a very common problem when they're using plastic parts. And this is not just common to Shakespeare. Again, Penn reels in the 209 series reels, they use a plastic transition piece as well. And I've seen them on higher level, higher dollar reels as well. So if you have one of these that's not working, again, we'll quick review here. Make sure your spool is turning because that's going to drive the gears on that side. Look underneath to see if the worm gear is moving. If that worm gear is not moving, then the chances are that there's a plastic gear inside the panel here and it's missing teeth. If that worm gear is moving, but the assembly here is not moving, then you want to get the pawl replacement. So I hope that's helped. If you liked this video, please like it on YouTube. If you want to see more of these, please subscribe to my channel. Again, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.